Learn English through story. The Hidden Affair. In the heart of the bustling city of Eldridge, where skyscrapers touched the clouds and the streets thronged with life, there was a hidden world beneath the surface, a world of secrets and desires, masked by the veneer of routine. Among its inhabitants was a man named Thomas, a successful architect in his early 30s, known for his innovative designs and dedication to his work. On the outside, he seemed to have it all: a beautiful home, a promising career, and a wife, Julia, who was the envy of many. Yet, beneath the facade of his perfect life lay a restlessness that Thomas could not ignore. Julia was a vibrant woman, full of life and ambition, who worked as a public relations executive. She and Thomas had been married for 6 years, and while they loved each other deeply, the routine of their daily lives had dulled the excitement of their early years together. Their conversations often revolved around work, deadlines, and the mundane aspects of life, leaving little room for the passion that had once ignited their relationship. Thomas longed for the thrill he had once felt, the spark that made him feel truly alive. One evening, as Thomas was leaving the office late after another long day, he noticed a new cafe tilde copyright across the street. Its warm glow beckoned him, and despite his better judgment, he decided to step inside. As he entered, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, and the sound of soft music wrapped around him like a comforting embrace. He took a seat at the back, seeking solace in the atmosphere. As he sipped his coffee, his eyes wandered around the cafe tilde copyright, landing on a woman sitting alone at a nearby table. She had long, flowing hair and an air of confidence that drew him in. Her name was Mia, and she was an artist who had recently moved to Eldridge to pursue her passion. Their eyes met, and she smiled, a simple, genuine smile that sent a jolt of electricity through Thomas. Over the next few weeks, Thomas found himself returning to the cafe tilde copyright more frequently, and each time, he would catch glimpses of Mia. They exchanged fleeting smiles and nods, but it wasn't until one fateful afternoon that their lives would intersect in a way neither of them expected. As Thomas sat at his usual spot, absorbed in his work, he noticed Mia struggling with a canvas. Curiosity piqued, he approached her table. "Need some help?" he asked, trying to sound casual. Mia looked up, surprise flickering across her face. "Oh, I'm just trying to figure out how to capture the light in this painting. I can't seem to get it right." "Mind if I take a look?" Thomas offered, hoping to engage her further. She gestured for him to sit, and they began to talk. Thomas found himself captivated by her passion for art, her enthusiasm spilling over as she described her journey as an artist and the struggles she faced. There was something refreshing about her, something that made him feel alive. As the weeks turned into months, their conversations deepened. They began to share their dreams, fears, and frustrations, and the connection between them blossomed into something both exhilarating and dangerous. Thomas found himself drawn to Mia in a way he hadn't felt in years. She ignited a spark within him, a desire for adventure and passion that had been buried under the weight of routine. Despite knowing that he was married, Thomas couldn't resist the allure of their budding friendship. He justified his actions by telling himself that it was innocent, just two people sharing their lives. But deep down, he knew he was crossing a line. Each stolen moment spent with Mia felt like a sweet escape from reality, a thrilling diversion from the life he had built with Julia. As their connection grew stronger, so did the tension between them. One evening, while discussing art and architecture over glasses of wine at Mia's small studio apartment. The air thickened with unspoken desire. Their laughter faded into a charged silence, and before Thomas could process what was happening, Mia leaned in, brushing her lips against his. The kiss was soft, hesitant at first, but it quickly turned passionate as Thomas lost himself in the moment. He had never felt such intensity before, a collision of desire and guilt that sent his heart racing. But as their lips parted, reality crashed down around him. He pulled away, panic rising within him. "I can't do this," he stammered, the weight of his marriage pressing down on him. "I'm married." Mia's expression turned from desire to disappointment, but there was understanding in her eyes. "I know," she replied softly. "But it feels so right, doesn't it?" Thomas stood up abruptly, his mind racing. I need to go." He fled her apartment, feeling the cold air bite against his skin. The exhilaration of the kiss clashed violently with the guilt that gnawed at his conscience. How could he betray Julia like this? But as he walked home, the thrill of the encounter lingered, tempting him to forget his responsibilities. When he arrived home, he found Julia curled up on the couch, engrossed in a book. She looked up, her eyes lighting up when she saw him. "You're home early. How was your day?" Thomas forced a smile, but inside, he felt like a stranger in his own life. "It was fine," he replied, trying to shake off the tension that clung to him. That night, as they lay in bed together, Thomas stared at the ceiling, his heart heavy with conflict. Julia curled against him, her warm body a stark contrast to the icy guilt that enveloped him. He felt a pang of regret wash over him. How had they gotten to this point? He loved Julia, yet he was allowing himself to be drawn into something dangerous with Mia. The next few days were a whirlwind of emotions. Thomas avoided the cafe tilde copyright, hoping to escape the temptation of seeing Mia again. But the pull was strong, and he found himself wandering back, drawn like a moth to a flame. The moment he walked through the door, his heart raced at the thought of seeing her. When their eyes met, the unspoken tension crackled in the air. They exchanged small talk, but the chemistry was palpable, and Thomas felt himself slipping. It wasn't long before they found themselves alone again in Mia's apartment, the air thick with anticipation. "Mia, we need to talk," Thomas began, but before he could gather his thoughts, she stepped closer, her eyes searching his. "Are you going to push me away again?" she asked, her voice tinged with vulnerability. "I don't want to hurt you," he admitted, his heart pounding in his chest. "But I'm married. I can't just walk away from my life." Mia's face fell, but she didn't back away. "You're unhappy, Thomas. You deserve to feel alive. You deserve passion." Her words pierced him, echoing the truth he had been avoiding. He was unhappy, and the longing for something more had led him to this point. But the thought of abandoning Julia filled him with dread. She had been his partner, his confidant. How could he betray her trust? As the days turned into weeks, the tension between Thomas and Mia simmered, always just beneath the surface. Their stolen moments became more intense, and the line between friendship and desire blurred dangerously. Thomas felt trapped in a web of his own making, torn between the life he had built with Julia and the excitement Mia offered. One afternoon, while walking through the park, Thomas received a call from Julia. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice heavy with concern. "Of course," he replied, anxiety tightening his chest. They met at a small cafe tilde copyright, and as they sat across from each other, Julia's eyes were filled with an intensity he hadn't seen in a long time. "I've been feeling a distance between us," she began, her voice steady but tinged with vulnerability. "I don't want to lose you, Thomas. I need to know what's going on." Thomas felt the walls closing in. He couldn't bear to lie to her, but revealing the truth would shatter everything. "I've just been a broken bar, distracted," he finally admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "Distracted?" Julia echoed, her brow furrowing. "Is it work? Is something bothering you?" Thomas looked down, guilt pooling in his stomach. "It's just a broken bar. I feel like we've lost something between us. The spark we used to have." Julia nodded slowly, understanding dawning in her eyes. "I've felt it too. I thought maybe it was just a phase, but I think we need to talk about it. We need to find a way back to each other." As Thomas listened to Julia's words, a wave of guilt crashed over him. He was standing on the precipice of betrayal, and yet here she was, reaching out to him, trying to bridge the gap he had created. "I don't want to hurt you, Julia," he said, his voice trembling. "Then be honest with me," she urged, her eyes searching his. "If there's something you're not telling me, please see broken bar, I deserve to know." In that moment, Thomas realized that he had a choice to make. He could either continue to indulge in the thrill of his affair with Mia or confront the truth and fight for his marriage. He felt the weight of his decision pressing down on him, and for the first time, he understood the gravity of his actions. Taking a deep breath, he said, "I've been seeing someone else." The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Julia's face paled, her eyes widening in shock and disbelief. "What do you mean?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "I met someone at the cafe tilde copyright. We became friends, and it turned into something more," he confessed, tears pricking at his eyes. "I never meant for it to happen, but I got swept up in it." Julia's expression shifted from shock to hurt. "How could you do this to us?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I trusted you." "I know," Thomas said, his heart breaking. "I've been so caught up in my own desires that I lost sight of what really mattered." Julia looked away, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I don't even know who you are anymore," she said, her voice cracking. "I thought we were in this together." As they sat in silence, the weight of his betrayal settled like a heavy fog between them. Thomas felt a profound sense of loss, a loss of trust, of love, and of the life they had built together. "I'm sorry, Julia," he said, his voice choked with emotion. "I never wanted to hurt you. I just got lost." Julia wiped her tears and took a deep breath. "I need time to process this," she said, her voice steady despite the pain in her eyes. "I don't know if I can forgive you." In that moment, Thomas realized the full extent of his actions. He had let his desires overshadow the love he had for Julia, and now he stood on the brink of losing everything. The thought of a future without her sent a chill down his spine. As Julia walked away, Thomas felt an emptiness settle in his chest. He had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed, and the consequences of his choices were crashing down around him. For days, he wandered through life in a daze, caught in a whirlwind of guilt and regret. He avoided Mia, knowing that every moment spent with her only deepened his betrayal to Julia. But as the days passed, Thomas couldn't shake the feeling that he had made the right choice. He had confronted the truth, and now it was time to fight for what mattered most. He began to reflect on the love he and Julia had shared, the laughter, the dreams, the quiet moments that had once filled their home with warmth. He realized he couldn't let that slip away without a fight. After a week of silence, Thomas reached out to Julia. He asked her to meet him at their favorite spot in the park, a place where they had shared so many happy moments. When she arrived, he could see the hurt still etched on her face, but there was also a flicker of hope in her eyes. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice trembling. "I know I've hurt you, and I don't expect you to forgive me right away. But I want to fight for us. I want to work through this together." Julia looked at him, uncertainty clouding her expression. "Can you really change?" she asked, her voice filled with skepticism. "I have to," Thomas replied, his heart pounding. "I've realized that my happiness can't come at the cost of our love. I want to rebuild what we had, but I need you to be willing to try, too." After a long pause, Julia nodded slowly. "I want that too, but it's going to take time. I need to know that you're committed to us." "I am," Thomas said firmly, reaching for her hand. "I promise to be honest with you from now on. No more secrets." As they sat together, hand in hand, Thomas felt a glimmer of hope. It wouldn't be easy, but he was willing to do whatever it took to mend the rift he had caused. They spent the next few weeks talking, reconnecting, and rediscovering the love that had brought them together in the first place. It was a process filled with tears and laughter, vulnerability and strength. Meanwhile, Thomas cut ties with Mia completely. He realized that while their connection had ignited something within him, it had also blinded him to the love that was right in front of him. He had to let go of the fantasy to embrace the reality of his life. As summer faded into fall, Thomas and Julia worked tirelessly to rebuild their relationship. They sought counseling, learned to communicate openly, and gradually found their way back to each other. It was a journey of rediscovery, where they learned to appreciate the small moments of the laughter over coffee, the warmth of shared blankets on cold nights, and the joy of simply being together. One evening, as they walked hand in hand through the park, Thomas looked at Julia and felt a profound sense of gratitude. "Thank you for giving us a chance," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. "I know I don't deserve it, but I promise to never take you for granted again." Julia smiled softly, the warmth of her love shining through the pain. "We all make mistakes," she replied. "What matters is how we learn from them and how we grow together." In that moment, Thomas understood the true meaning of love. It wasn't about perfection, it was about honesty, forgiveness, and the willingness to fight for each other through the storms of life. Their journey had been tumultuous, but it had also brought them closer than ever before. As the leaves turned golden and the air grew crisp, Thomas and Julia embraced their new beginning, a relationship strengthened by vulnerability, honesty, and a deep understanding of what it meant to truly love one another. True love requires honesty, vulnerability, and a commitment to grow together through challenges. It is essential to confront desires and temptations with integrity, recognizing that genuine connections are built on trust and understanding rather than fleeting thrills. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you enjoyed, then please like and share this video, and don't forget to subscribe our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching.